So just a quick reminder about the hygiene rules from yesterday. So I'll just quickly share my screen and go through them again. Ask everyone to keep their cameras on because you will actually be a lot more present with your camera on. You'll be listening a lot more intently. For the presenter presenting, they'll also be able to see your face, so they'll be able to get visual cues if people are understanding, not understanding. People can change their pace accordingly. So just a general request: keep your cameras on. We've sent a virtual background in case your surroundings are not sort of conducive to switch on your camera. So you can feel free to use that. Second is also keep your mics on mute when someone else is speaking. It'll get very distracting otherwise because some background sound keeps coming otherwise. So just keep your mics on mute. Um, Feel free to raise your hands to ask a question. This depends on the panelists. Some people prefer you to raise your hand. Some people can just tell you to unmute and ask questions directly. You can also use the chat to ask questions, but it's always better when the panelist gets sort of a verbal question than a question in the chat. It makes it a little more personal. It makes it easier to interact. And finally, you have full ownership of your learning journey. So we request you to be mentally present out here. Yeah, Kushagra, following the principles right away. What happened? You can ask your question. Yeah, Kushagra, you had raised your hand. Or was that just okay, accidental? No problem, no problem. Cool. So let's start with just a quick round of, icebreakers. Everyone, just put your name in the chat, followed by your favorite tech stack. Just what your favorite tech stack is and just your name. And we can sort of see if there are any commonalities, if some people, if there's like a trend that comes out of this chat. As Rahul said yesterday, just have a laundry list of everything and then look for patterns in that. Let's see if that happens out of this. Shivam, your name as well as your favorite tech stack. Okay, Karthike likes Golang, Mon and Gen AI from Shivam. Could we have a few more? Come on, guys. Share kar lo yaar. You all are coders. You all are going to be working for the next 3 months with some tech stack, so you might have favorites. Laravel and Mon and Python. I've seen a lot of Mon. There is a general trend of Mon being everyone's favorite. Nice, nice. React, Spring deployment tooling. Got it. So, what I'm hearing is that in terms of everyone's favorite tech stack, Mern is something that people really like a lot. So we'll keep that in mind. Throughout these 3 months, we'll try having a session on Mern for sure. And in fact, I'll follow up on the group. We'll ask what you all want sessions on. So we'll try getting experts in those particular tech stacks to sort of lead sessions on that. Does that sound good? Cool. Then, without any other further sort of delay, let's move to the first session. So our first session is on project planning. So if you remember yesterday, one of the sort of 5 pillars that we had to have a successful coding period was planning your project very properly and sort of working with your mentor to get that absolutely right. So for that, we have with us to lead the session Tejaswini Balaji. She's a process consultant at Shiksha Lokam. She has over 2 decades of experience in project planning and operations and has worked extensively as a lead engineer and in product related roles. So this is the time for you to ask questions about how exactly you should structure your project in terms of timelines, how you break down that macro goal into tiny, smaller goals. If you have any questions about how to tackle procrastination, maybe you can take those up as well, because I know I procrastinate a lot. So just sort of you can go ahead and take that up with Tejaswini right now. So Tejaswini, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Abhimanyu, and thanks for this opportunity. I hope I'll be able to, explain the importance of the project planning to this whole team. And yeah, so as Abhimanyu stated, to a quick self intro about myself. So I've been with IT for more than 2 decades, more than 25 plus years of experience, I can say. And I was with GE and with bigger companies where I was into project planning and also a certified Scrum Master, Agile Coach, and various other uh, lead auditor, which is ISO standards. I hope you're aware of all of these um, all of these terminology. I hope you're aware of this. And Lean Six Sigma, Green Belt, all of this process related. So why it is very important? I started my career as a developer and then got into process planning and then now consulting for various. And also, it's not. I'm just not an IT professional, but also I'm an entrepreneur. I started my own company where I can, I just wanted to leverage my knowledge and skills with. Stop, I'm sorry about my this thing camera, which is giving me a trouble since. Give me 1 second. Yeah, just to continue on that. So it's not. I wanted to leverage the skill of process management and other things for the NGOs and government bodies. So I've also done some of the process management, process improvement, business improvements, basically, um, into various government organizations. And to name a few, it's not just one domain. It can be as simple as into waste management. It need not be IT. It can be applied everywhere else, right? So you can also build um, code. You can also build products for such organizations as well, where you want to improve their. It's not business when I say it's not commercials, but how you can get these things improved, get things organized, and things like this. So let me give me 1 second, Abhiman. Sorry about it. So
No issue.
as always, the systems and the process during the session is a problem. So how many of you know anything, any basics about the project planning and how important it is? It is. I want to make this very interactive. Feel free to be open, ask questions, so that both of us learn together how to apply this in your software development, because this is project planning is the very basic, very important aspect of everything that you do. It's not just the development part of it, the overall, even if you want to keep yourself organized, planning is a part of it, is a very basic part of it, right? So how can you do that? So let's see how we can get started. So how many of you have heard anything about project planning, how important that is? So you can either put in your comment on the meeting chat, or you can open up. This is an open forum to discuss. Let's take 1 or 2 minutes. No, there's no screen share yet. There's a question, so I'm just trying to understand.
So just a general sense, I also Tejaswini, not a lot of these folks would have actually done project planning at any proper scale before this, because I guess for a lot of these folks, this is also the first large scale sort of project they're tackling.
Yeah. So at least if they have heard anything about it, so I just wanted to understand if anybody is aware of the terms. Not really what is project management at all. At least if they have heard anything about project management and stuff.
Good evening, ma'am. I would like to. I have heard about Scrum calls and how the bug reporting is part of project planning, and how project planning is far more crucial than going and diving into the coding journey. So, we'll be really excited to learn things from you that you would like to share.
Yeah, that's very nice to hear, Sabya. So well, agile is a part of one of the project management tool, I can say, or part of the overall project planning itself. So we'll get into the depth of what project planning itself in general. And then probably if required later, Abhimanyu, if everybody are interested, probably I can take what each one of them mean, because there are various types of project management that are there, which are, to name a few, which are agile, waterfall, iterative, Kanban, and many of them. Okay, so let's get started. I'll just share my screen. Abhimanyu, do I have the option, right? Okay, I have the option.
Yep.
Yes. So why it is very important? How will you enhance your ability to consistently deliver quality product and services? So it's not just planning, right? So you should not be taking this as one of your other software engineering topic. Okay, so this is very, like I said, this is a very crucial part. This is a very basic thing too. How do you build your ability to consistently deliver? Consistent is a very important word here. So how do you build your ability to consistently deliver quality product? What do you mean by quality product? So what does quality mean here? So we are building something that is really required by you're meeting the requirements, and that is required by the customer, right? So that is very important here. So how do you even build that ability to consistently deliver? That is through project planning and prioritization. So how do you further drill down into the bigger micro project goals into smaller achievable goals, right? So this entire thing is part of the planning. So let's see what are the benefits of having this. So I hope you have seen this meme, right? So I hope all of you have seen this diagram where it says, this is what the customer explained, but however, and the project leader understood it differently, and the engineer designed it this way. Because what happens is the requirements gathering is one of the crucial part again, and the planning was also part of how you derive the requirements, how this is delivered to the team, how this is explained to the team, and how it is installed, how the customer wanted, how the customer wanted it. Really was just a very simple swing he wanted. But however, it was all built, it was understood differently, and the communication, the planning, or what is really required is something that is very important to understand. Okay. So what are the benefits of project planning? So it gives a clear roadmap for the project. So what does it really mean? What do you mean by the roadmap? What do you mean by roadmap? If you can provide your inputs on the chat, please. What do you mean by roadmap for the project? Let me see if anybody has that. So way to setting milestones, yes. Path for achieving the goal of project. The way we are going to meet our targets, yes. Okay. Step-by-step path to achieve the goal, yes. So clear roadmap. As we all know, the roadmap is the path to to meet the milestones. Okay, so benefit 2. So what does reduces risk and unforeseen challenges? So what does it really mean? Reduces the risk. How will it reduce the risk? Because we are planning, so the way we are setting the right milestone, and we are focusing on the milestones and the plan that we have set forward, and so it will reduce the risk of getting diverted into different projects and delaying the project, and we can clearly meet the milestones as planned. Okay, and unforeseen challenges. So while you're planning, you will also see, I'll take you through the complete set of steps that we have to follow while we are planning, and also while we are breaking down the tasks, so that we know these are the challenges that we see. For example, you have the clear requirements. So what will you do next? What is the thing that you will start with? You will now see what are the tech stack that is being used, right? So this is a tech stack. I'm aware of Python, so I will be doing this. So if I am not sure, and this is the database that is used in this MongoDB. But however, you are not very aware of MongoDB. What is that you will have to do? What is the unforeseen challenge here? MongoDB being used is an unforeseen challenge, right? So for that, you will have to plan something. You will have to get some trainings done. What are the things that you will have to do? So the set of things, activities that you will do part of the project, that will help you see the challenges, unforeseen challenges. You will also try to see, thereby reducing the risk. Okay. And next is streamlining internal operations. What do you mean by internal operations? Internal operations are nothing. There are various activities that you're doing. It's not just developing, right? It's not just coding. There are other activities that you'll be doing. What are those other activities? You're setting up your, like we said, you're setting up your local environment. You have to develop and deploy that into your various environments that you may have. Maybe it is internal. It's an system integration testing that you will have to do. You will have to do integration testing. Then you will be doing the beta testing. So there'll be various pre-production, production, or various different environments that you may have. So what are the different things that you will have to do while you will be now streamlining those internal operations. What does that really mean is, for various environments, you'll be configuring the environment related files, environmental files, right? There you're trying to now see that, okay, if I have to set this configuration for various, you will set external variables, right? In a common global way, where you will set, if this is an QA environment, I'll set here, this is my local. If it is for pre-production or benchmarking environment, so you will be thinking on those lines. So you're streamlining such activities, the internal operations of how you will be coding, deploying, or even versioning, which I'll take you through why it is important, all of this. So the other part is about improving your efficiency and resource allocation. So obviously, planning helps in your efficiency, because you will know what is the thing that you will have to start working on priority, and increases the project success rate. How will it increase? Because you've already set this is the milestone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the activities part of milestone 1. So this much activity 1 takes 5 days, 2 takes 1 day, the activity 3 takes 2 hours probably. And so you will know exactly how much time is required, and you will work towards that. And if there are any impediments that you see in between, you you talk to the project lead or whoever, and then try to reduce the risk, right? So the success rate is very high when you're doing the planning and following through the planned activities. So what is the benefit 6? So it is about facilitating communication about stakeholders also. So it is, when I said stakeholders, it's not just external stakeholders. For you, the stakeholders would be your project lead, your other DevOps guy, your testing team. And also your project lead, or anybody else who is part of the project that you're working with. It could be product owner. So it facilitates communication, because now you will go back and say that, no, this requirement cannot be delivered on this day. So I will need a few more days. And so this is very important, that you collaborate and facilitate and communicate with all the stakeholders of the project. So let's get into the importance of the prioritization. So what does it mean? So there are various status of each of these requirements. So when we say requirements, right? So I will say that one quick example would be, I want to build a website. So that will be the requirement. This is a very generic, vague, high-level requirement that I say. So now I will say there are the website should have so and so requirements. So it can have login, log out, and many other things which can say that your web portal should have something. It could be an e-commerce platform where you're trying to build something to buy. We all are online shopping freaks, right? So maybe you want to build something for clothing or for cosmetics or anything else, or electronic gadgets or something. I'll not very specify that what needs to be done in the web portal. I will just say that you have to build an e-commerce portal. So then you will come up with the requirements. What are the different various things that I can do in this web portal, right? I will then say that this is for digital products, and then then you will say what is important here. For me, getting the list of all the digital products is very important. So that is my urgent and important task. That is the urgent and important requirement. But for me, requirement is I do not want anything related to very high level, I'll say again. So it can be laptops, it can be various gadgets, but not really the adapters or that is very. I will only say that basic necessity gadgets, I'll say. So which will not include many other things, right? It cannot be an adapter, probably not something that is very small. So that becomes basic, urgent, important, right? It is urgent and important for this website to build in. So urgent, important, if you see here, urgent, important says pick me up. Urgent, there can also be urgent but not important, right? But and also there can be not urgent but important. It is important that I need an adapter for a laptop, but at this point of time, it's not necessary for me to list down all the gadgets for these, right? So similarly, you can categorize the requirements into various categorization. Okay, like this is important for me. This is must-haves. There are must-haves that I need for this project, and this is very important. This is urgent but not important, which means login is urgent but not important at this point of time. It is required in the phase 3. So you can also phase it out. And it is also important that how you phase these things, because it is based on the estimations or the efforts that is required for you to do that. Suppose login listing or searching of these electronic gadgets will take a lot of time. That effort to search and list it out will take a lot of time. So that gets very urgent and important, while the login for this web portal is important, right? And also, it's not important at this point of time, but it is urgent. So what you will do, you will pick up the one which has a larger effort. You build that, and then urgent for login, it's urgent. So you will then integrate. Login takes just 1 or 2 hours. Then you will integrate, which takes a smaller effort than the one. So you will start prioritizing that. Okay. Any questions on this so far? We'll take up an example of the previous C4GT project itself. I'll go through the list and take it forward. But however, at this point of time, any questions? Okay. Okay, moving forward. So this is, as explained earlier, it prevents distractions, helps individuals and teams focus on what matters most. Effective time management by identifying tasks that are urgent and important versus those that can be deferred or delegated. And defining and prioritizing of requirements that aligns to the roadmap. So this is very, very important. So I will say that, no, it will look good. Now, if I build gadgets, I'll also, beautify this page that is required. So I'll I'll customize with alphabetical order. or I'll give only for HP related laptops, or for Apple, or for Mac. Like you can think on those lines, but is it really required at that point of time? We'll have to also see if that is really required. So it has to, but my roadmap, right? My requirement says that I'm building a web portal which should list all the electronic assets. And I will clearly further refine that requirement, saying this is my basic need. Okay. So it has to align to the roadmap. That is very important. Defining and prioritizing of requirement that aligns to the roadmap with well-defined release. Work is pulled as capacity permits rather than work being pushed into, which again says that, like I said, my capacity to build the web portal is so much. So this is the time that is required. So project planning is also done by the project managers. They will say that this is the capacity of the team. I'll pull those requirements. Rather, you're saying, these are the requirements, let's do it. So it will go on and on for years. So it is not done that way. Rather, it says based on the capacity of the team, the skill set of the team, and all of this. So a quick question now. So what do you think is the responsibility, whose responsibility it is for planning the project? Is it project managers, developers, or both? If you can quickly, somebody can also speak up or type in.
I think it's both responsibility, a good collaborative effort, taking in consideration both the capacity of the developers and what is the agenda of the program manager that is communicated to them by the project owner is very essential. It is a teamwork that is very crucial in this.
Yeah, correct, good. So yes, all of them are saying all combined need to decide. Yes, both. Yes, both. Correct. So what's the responsibility of project manager? He defines the roadmap and he takes you towards the focused path. He'll take you towards that, the milestones or deliverables. The project end of the project timeline defined by them. So what is the role of a developer here is the estimations, right? So he will give so it is very important for a project manager to take the inputs of a developer. So that is because the developer, based on his skill set, based on his experience, they will be providing, these are the various requirements, these are the tasks or the activities that he needs to do, he or she needs to do. And then they say that they give the inputs that these are the various tasks that we have to do for this particular requirement. So it takes so much of time, so much of these are the activities, and based on which the project manager goes back, and they will also say 3 months is in Agile. What happens is we have a set of sprint cycles, right? It is defined based on the organizations. So it is customized based on their need. It can be 2-week sprint or 3-month sprint or whatever. So the deliverables, it goes to production. When I say it goes to production, means it is delivered to the customer in 3 months. So in 3 months, what are the things that we can pick is how it has been planned. But however, in waterfall or iterative method, what happens is the customer says, these are the requirements I need. Okay, so how much, give me the plan, how much time it takes. It may go to 6 months, 4 months, 5 months. But the wait for a customer will be a very long there. They will not, or in 6 months, the need for the customer may change, isn't it? So that is why the agile methodology is being used, and based on the sprint cycle. So I'll say in a must-haves have to be picked in sprint 1, first cycle, the first deliverable cycles. So then I'll give all the must-haves to them. Next can be so I'm now can customize or beautiful or whatever, or give some advanced requirements to like advanced features probably. Now I'll give search is a basic need. I will now enhance the search, saying So I'll say give some recommendations based on my previous search. So it can be, this may not be a must-have in the phase 1. So that is how the project planning happens. It is phased out. The must-haves will be in phase 1, can be customized or enhanced in the next phases based on the need. Okay. Okay, so like I said, defining and prioritizing. Work is pulled as capacity permits. So it is also, like I said, it is very important to align our strategy with the org's strategy and vision. We will say, like I explained earlier, it cannot be, this is what it is, but I'm doing something else. It's a waste of both of the team's effort and the organization's effort. So align with release cadence. Like I said, release cadence is nothing but the sprint cycles or the release cycles with strong emphasis on quality. So this is very, very important. Quality is very important because what is quality is nothing but meeting customer requirements, right? So, and we remove impediments that will prevent them from achieving the goals. So upfront, we say these are the activities required, like I mentioned. These are the activities. So this I'm very well off. This I do not know. These are the things I have to do. So suppose I'll have to set up the environment itself. So what are the, whom should I meet? DevOps. I'll go talk to the project leader, the manager saying, these are the things that are required to be done. So whom should I contact? All this, you will start thinking and planning towards that. Okay. And dealing with change at the last minute in the life cycle. This leads to a lot of, waste. We call it as waste. And the last minute change is always a rework. So, but in software development, there's always some rework that needs to be done because of some changes or requirements change that happens. We cannot do away with that, but however, majority of that can still be planned and the cost of rework can be reduced. And further to that, how can we do that? So I'll skip this. What does it mean? Like I said, we have to align to the strategic objectives, identifying bottlenecks, requirements. So eliminating waste is very, very important. And also you have to monitor your progress from start to finish. This is very important. You have to monitor. So let's get into the software development life cycle itself. I'm sure all of you might have gone through this. I'll not take too much time. And this is not just for project managers. This is very, very important for each and every developers, who are part of software engineering, I'll say. So who are part of software engineering, developers, testers, can be product owners, designers, UI, UX, all of the software engineering team. It's very important for each one of them because each one of them will go through this entire cycle, by the way. You're doing some part of the planning. Both project managers or developers or anybody who's, including QA member or a UI UX guy, right? They're doing some part of the planning, right? They are planning what UI to build, what UI UX to do, what are the tools that I will use to build this UI UX. And they will analyze this requirement. Am I doing the right UI UX? And also, developer can say that, I'm analyzing what's the best code. Maybe you are aware of Python or like we said, it's all React and all of this, Express and all of this now. So what are the things that you want to do? So you are analyzing that part of the requirement. So you're designing, next is designing. So next you go with the development cycle and then testing. So this is when I said just testing, it's not just QA test teams responsibility here. Each developer has to do their unit testing. When we say unit, it's a piece of unit that they're building. They have to ensure that this piece of code is tested and working as expected. Then they do the integration testing with other piece of modules so that to ensure that the feature is working, right? And then maintenance. When we say maintenance, it's also very important that we take the code, version the code, and maintain it. So let's see how we can break down. So define the macro goal clearly. So I'll go with an example here. Okay, I will go each step with an example here. When I say so the macro project, this is the project which was picked last year. And okay, so the macro project was template creation portal. That was the project given. So what do we mean by that? Template creation portal. We use Excel projects. This is from Shikshalokam, which where I consult now. So this was a project where we consult for government and we catalyze education leadership. Okay. So there are solutions that we build for them, which is, improvement projects, I can say, which has multiple solutions where we get the inputs from the government states or districts or wherever. It's an Excel sheet. So we send the Excel sheet and they give back the inputs and we create in the backend, we create programmatically, we create those programs on the UI. You can look at Diksha, DIKSHA is the website, diksha.gov.in, where the projects are being used by teachers, head teachers, or head officials of education. So that was so we were it is getting tedious for them to use Excel and keep sharing this, right? So we wanted to build a portal. So that was the project given. So what happens? Define the macro goal clearly. So we have clearly defined the goal now. So identify key milestones for project tracking, right? What are the key milestones? So we have to write a project proposal. So these are, and we have to design a wireframe. It's not just immediately when I say this is the requirement, you cannot jump into, oh, what are the things I can do with template creation portal. So first you have to understand what does this mean. Like I said, there are various solutions, 5 to 6 solutions. What are the solutions that are very important? So there are program projects, observations, surveys, and other things. So for me, what is important? For me, program and project is very important for now. So we tell them that program is very important. So now you will start writing designing the wireframe for that particular solution. So first thing is they will have to write the wireframe for front end, right? And then they will have their milestones now. So soon after the wireframe design, can you get started? No, because maybe you have understood it differently. You will have to keep having a checkpoints with the project teams, right? So you'll have a meeting, then understanding the project itself, the entire project, and set up GitHub and project. Again, I'm saying this is very important. Setting up GitHub is also important because this is where you will be doing your versioning, you're maintaining your code, all of this. And also, this is where there will be 5 people working for this particular project. And then each of you will be working in parallel. And there will be a branch created where each of you will be then merging the latest changes into that particular code. So these things are very important to note and also plan accordingly. So that's why the planning and breaking down of the tasks and activities is very important. Then you will see what is the backend, what is the API you may have to build, what is the database that is being used, right? So these are, again, you'll have to build the database itself. So if I'm doing a project or a program, so this requires this many, I need head teachers information, what are the things that they need, what is the project that state is going to do, for which state is this being used, all this information is stored in database, right? So you'll have to see what is the database design, how many tables do you need? So how do you, what are the interactions that's being done here? Is it SQL based, query based or not? All this you will have to understand based on the project. So then you build the login page and the service and program page design. This is the program. When I say program, don't mistake this for a program or a project of this thing. This is a solution that we are building here for the state government. Okay, front-end validations. So these are the way, this is how you break down into various tasks and how much time it is required. So there are also estimations here because I had to, because of PI, I'll have to, mask who was doing it and all of that. So you can always say this requires 2 hours. Break it down to the smallest level. This take 2 hours. Go to 1 day, then say this may take 2 hours. So you can have used, and it is very necessary that you also add some buffer to your planning. Okay, so because that 2 days you will have to take care. Probably if you're working for 8 hours, you will have to say 6 hours and 4 hours for meetings and any other questions and other things that you'll have to. Okay, so these are the various tasks that you'll have to plan. Okay, then service testing end-to-end deployments. All this is very important. These are the various tasks and against which you will put your estimations and the dates of the deliverables. Okay, so now if you see, we have done breakdown the milestones into individual actionable tasks that we did, right? Create a realistic timeline and monitor progress. This is very important. So, and also next part, like I said, is versioning is very, very important. There are various tools today. So this is about configurations, right? Configuration management. So this is very important to maintain the history of this, to track changes made over time. Today you will be working on that. Tomorrow there might be some requirement change, but day after tomorrow we'll come back and say, no, the first version is good. So how will you get back to that? You keep overwriting in your local, but if you store somewhere, you can always go back to the version 1.0, 1.1, 1.2 is where we are working. We will say, no, 1.0 is good. So you'll go back to 1.0 and start working on that. And this facilitates collaboration. Like I said, many people working on the same project, and you can work on, everybody works on that, and then you will upload to a branch where everything gets updated. And this also enable the rollbacks. Well, like I said, in production, we take 1.4 or 2.0, then that has a problem in production environment. We have not, that is an unforeseen challenge that we see, or some error that we see because of they might be using various different tech stack. Probably the cloud service is being used as the GCP, which may be different from Azure that we were using in our testing environment. So there is a problem. So we say that no, we'll go back to the previous version. How will you do that? So for this, we will go back to that. We'll pick that branch and say we'll go back and redeploy the previous version of this. So the versioning gets very, very important. Even in your local, you should be keeping the version of your current code and the previous versions. Okay, so this ends how you do a complete software development lifecycle. So this is 30 minutes is a very, very short time, Abhimanyu, to get into the details of the project planning, because each of this is a bigger topic. Probably, if anybody wants to understand more of this, of each phase, they can always get back to me. I'll be happy to explain them the different methodologies and the different phases of the development lifecycle itself, on the versioning, or maybe the planning itself, or anything of that sort, or there's even estimations.
Sure, Tejaswini. Thanks so much. And also, just a general reminder to anyone, any questions you have about whichever session, you can just reach out to me, let me know those questions, and I'll definitely take it up, and I can just let Tejaswini know and she can answer those. Sounds good? Perfect. Thank you, Tejaswini. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I hope everybody get to learn something about project planning. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay. So, our next session will be taken by Rahul. You've met Rahul Kulkarni yesterday. He took the session on system design. You'll be interacting with him in the future as well. He's a huge part of the C4GT ecosystem, and he's an open source force to be reckoned with in his own right. So, feel free to suck out all bits of knowledge you can from him over these next 3 months, because he's going to make time and going to make sure that all of you learn as much as possible over these next 3 months. So, over to you, Rahul.
Thank you so much, Abhimanyu, and hi everyone again. Very nice to meet you again. I'm always excited by mentoring young talent, and you guys are the best of the best. So, power to you. Really hoping to see some very wonderful projects coming out this year. So, what I wanted to cover today, right, is what should you be mapping your macro journey like, right? Yesterday, of course, we dived into the tech side of things, but I want to put it in perspective, like where are you in your journey, right? You're all college students, at least most of you are, and you're all in your probably second year, third year, some fourth year across colleges, right? And doing engineering, some in CS, some in not CS, some in the IITs, some in non-IITs, some in tier one colleges, some in tier three colleges. It doesn't matter. Honestly, you've seen the selection process, right? And this is very representative of how companies also look for talent. I mean, if you've cracked a C4GT, you'd probably crack any product startup interview as well. Why? Because the concepts that are asked, the constructs that you'd be working on, that you've already worked on, and so on, your experience speaks for yourself. That's what most companies value, especially on the product side. Now, I want to give it a little more shape, right? Little more shape in terms of in the context of your career. Um, some of the times, of course, one part of your resume, right, is your data structures and algorithms. Everyone does that. So I don't know how many of you, where are you on CodeChef, CodeForces, Lead Code? What are you doing nowadays? Well, just type it in chat like yesterday, or then speak out. Just unmute and speak up. We can be informal. Acha, lead code, everyone on lead code mostly. Okay. See, if you are finding lead code okay, na, so upgrade to Code Forces. Code Forces is a tougher one, so a little more representative of the real world. Code Chef is good as well, but Code Chef is far more India centric, and so you don't know your global rank really. But on Code Forces, you kind of see your global scores and so on. That's not the only way though, right? Fundamentally, your ability to understand data structures, implement them. So if you've worked on complex, say, graph problem statements, if you've worked on certain things that requires linked list equivalent development, or if you've worked on any, vector DB kind of project, embeddings kind of project on the AI front, all of that is equivalent to, let's say, you scoring a 5-star, 6-star on a code chef or something. तो वो नहीं हुआ तो ऐसे नहीं कि कुछ नहीं है. You've just got to show कि dude, you know data structures, you know algorithms, right? That's going to be a given from anyone. Can you extract efficiency out of your particular GPU or CPU? With GPUs, right? I'll give you a real example. So in say for example, when I was doing my previous startup, we were doing 1000 QPS on one computer. And we were happy with that, right? Out of we put up a server. पहले तो Tomcat था, वो तो बहुत ही slow था. Then we went down to Nginx. Nginx was the smallest one, fastest one. And Nginx पे we were able to extract about 1000 QPS kind of loads on it. And yet we were not making money. We were doing real-time bidding on Facebook ads. So we were part of real-time exchange and we were doing real-time bidding in ads. So 300 millisecond we have to go back and forth. Now, if you're doing some complex problem like that, we thought 1000 QPS is pretty good. 1000 QPS money, we are handling 1000 queries per second, processing things at 1000 queries per second, returning it with everything scaling up, horizontal scaling ho raha tha, sab kuch ho raha tha. The math did not add up. We were spending more money in server costs than actually what we were making out of the ads. So we actually went to Facebook. We asked bunch of people, कि यार क्या गलत हो रहा है? Something you're doing wrong, right? What is going wrong? They're like, how? What's your QPS? Like 1000. 1000? Are you kidding me? तो क्या चाहिए? नहीं, you need to at least have 20,000 QPS. Like 20,000 QPS कैसे आ सकता है भैया? मतलब yes, खींच के we can get it to 2,000, but we just don't know. नहीं, what have you written it in? नहीं, written it in नहीं, हम तो Nginx use कर रहे हैं. And he just laughed. नहीं, you have to write it. I'm like, okay, then ठीक है, लिख देंगे, we'll write it, and what would we write it in? And they're like, नहीं, has to be someone who understands C++ and has to be using custom data structures and algorithms to really optimize that at that level. तब जाके वो 20K QPS आता है, तब जाके पैसा बनता है. So, that's the first time it hit me. I thought it used to be theoretical. Why do they want data structure algorithm just to test your brain power? Not really. They really hit this problem. We used to hit it at Google. We are hitting it when it comes to AI stuff, when it comes to GovTech also. We are hitting a problem because today, for example, we are stuck at about 8 queries per second on a mid-sized GPU. So GPU के अलग-अलग version होते हैं. सबसे बड़ा GPU is a H100, impossible to get. Then a A100, and then Tesla T4. So we are deploying a bunch of systems across states on a Tesla T4. Tesla T4 पे एक GPU पे we can only do about 8 queries per second, which is also pretty good, right? But GPUs work in a different way, parallelization करते हैं, वो सब करते हैं. So it's in a very different way. It's not the way CPUs linearly scale. तो GPUs में 8 लाना is also good, but I'm sure somebody is going to laugh at us कि सिर्फ 8, अरे 100 QPS चाहिए एक GPU पे, otherwise how are you going to scale? So those are the kind of things that require you to think in terms of data structures, in terms of efficient algorithms, and in terms of this concurrency to be extracted out of it. Okay, so that is one element you have to kind of build your expertise on. So any opportunity that you get as part of your project to deep dive into that, do it. The other element of a project beyond the tech complexity, we talked about yesterday, system design. So how do you abstract things out of a system? How do you say कि product बनना इससे, this is for the ecosystem, this is for the larger good, and so on. That is another aspect. And then the third one, also you need to understand this from a development point of view. What is the development process? What do you create out of it? At the end of the day, today you're seeing all your problem statements. They may be slightly loose. So it's quite clear ki karna kya hai. But please know that the problem statements that you've been given are very bacha wala problem statements, very simple ones for your caliber. So don't think कि यार इतना मैंने fight मार के इतना बड़ा resume किया है. Why do you need a person with like so much experience? You guys are all talented. I've gone through most of your profiles. बहुत तगड़ा सा ये किया है. Many of you have actually solved bugs in that. Many of you are already on the DPG points list, on the leaderboard, and so on. So you really know your stuff. Then when you see the project name and project listing, you please यार ये तो एक हफ्ते में हो जाएगा. हाँ? That is a good thing. That is a good thing. So that is really the intent कि एक हफ्ते में करा सकते हो तो करा दो, right? If you are good, if you are familiar with that code base, I'll say finish your project in 1 week. That 1 week, 2 weeks gives you a license to think bigger. Okay, that builds the trust. So whenever you go into a job also, it's a microcosm of the job. ये 3 महीने, assume these 3 months are like a real job of 1 year. You're just crunching it into 3 months. So 3 महीने you can say बताओ क्या करना है, ठीक है, ये करना है, 3 आइटम कर दिए, ये मेरा weekly update ये हो गया. You can sail through like that very comfortably. ज़्यादा time नहीं लगेगा. You'll be very tension free. But I think this is a way to test out how would you work in the real world, and how do you kind of position that, how do you plan that out? I would say assume that this is a 1 to 2 week project, which it honestly is. You can really, a talented engineer, lag jano uspe full time, so you'd really complete it in 1 to 2 weeks. Now, race ahead, get that thing going. By doing that, and not that यार कोने में बैठ के कर दिया, you just have better frequency of interaction with your mentor. So you say कि ठीक है, इस हफ्ते में design doc करते हैं, तो इस हफ्ते में नहीं, next day send them one version, get comments on it. Another 4 hours, you have a revised version sent. That's how the real world works. You can't get 1 week से नहीं चलता, government नहीं है ये. So this is hardcore coding, high speed coding, right? So गवर्नमेंट भी बहुत तेज काम करता है when it's like population scale stuff करना ही पड़ता है, because there's so thousands of taxpayers screaming at you, or thousands of students screaming at you, thousands of farmers screaming at you. You cannot say कि next हफ्ते होगा. It has to be in a couple of hours. So iterate on a design doc, get that out of the way, and then get into actual development and बना दो. Get a prototype out quickly and get that feedback and so on. If you get this basic out in a week or two, your credibility with your mentor goes through the roof. So suddenly your mentor says, "अरे बच्चे इनको बस सिखाना है, इनको ये करना है to say कि यार DPG क्या होता है." And that is like a minimum bar, right, for a mentor when he comes in. But all of these mentors are gods. So you're lucky to be working with these kind of mentors. तो उन mentor का फायदा लो. फायदा कैसे? सीखो उनसे. So, but that seek only comes if you show that you are willing to work hard and have talent. And so after that 2 weeks, if you really produce something that's working with all the processes, just crunch timelines and get it done faster, you get to a trusted level with your mentor. You're like, wow, I've gotten some mentee who's really fast. This contributor can go places. So now they also start opening up more problem statements to you around that thing, and it need not be exactly that. Sometimes it expands it, sometimes it goes bigger, sometimes it goes way bigger than expected. It's supposed to be a prototype, and then they're like, nahi, ye परसों कुछ तो ये बड़ा सा state launch है, you know what? Because you're doing it so fast, we'll plan it a bit for that only. So we'll make that bigger. So suddenly you have to start thinking, what are these different areas? What are these different things that you can expand into as your project? Assume this project is just a foot in the door with that organization. So if you're working with a UNICEF, if you're working with a MAFOS, if you're working with a METE, if you're working with any organization, right? All of those 47 are absolutely world-class organizations. Any of those organizations, I tell you, the problem statement that you're given is very small. The real problems that they have are very large. They have intentionally not exposed that to you because aap bachche ho, right? That's their assumption. Now it's your choice. In 2 weeks, can you reset that expectation कि यार बच्चे नहीं है ये यहाँ पे Mark Zuckerberg quality है 19-year-old, but we know more coding than a 10-year experienced person. Can you give them that impression? Once you do that, then the world opens up. Then the kind of projects that you do have that impact and have that clarity. Now, in doing this project also, one of the things that you have to figure out is how does a project evolve? How does a project evolve into a product? Okay, so when you see project statements, they are not product statements. And I want to give you some examples. These are examples of previous year projects only. Let me see, let me try projecting this. So let's look at. Okay, let's look at some projects from last year. Now, last year के projects में, you can see my screen, na? Yeah.
Yep. दिख रहा है राहुल.
Thanks. So this was a project to say कि there is a Loin NC करके एक standard है for capturing lab test results. And in India, Ayushman Bharat wasn't having that integration. So Ayushman Bharat systems did not understand if you give a lab test in Loin NC format. If a doctor searched for it using that terms, you couldn't get it. So the thing was very simple. Here we just need a Loin NC search thing, right? When the project was conceptualized, it was just like that. But when Vansh came in, he was so fast that suddenly Kiran, I remember telling me, yeah, this guy is so good. He's just thinking as a product. He's not thinking as a problem statement, engineering problem statement. Vansh is already thinking product level. So now we're thinking like a complete portal for doing that. So he's designing the portal. He's creating that. वो ऐसे नहीं कि अरे UI नहीं है, UX नहीं है, ये क्या होगा, वो कौन देगा? No. One just dived in and started doing everything. And the end product, right? As opposed to saying this is a little search service that searches Line NC compatible terms, it suddenly becomes a nationwide integration of lines for enhanced interoperability for Indian healthcare. That evolves as your impact. And what you have is, providing standardized codes for medical tests, communication and exchange with the healthcare system. Ye data exchange, वगैरह कुछ नहीं था. There was no concept in the overall problem statement. And all of this being open source, all of the labs can use it and so on. And it just takes us on the global stage, being interoperable with global standards on lab tests and so on. Then you think of this other one. You had, streamlining health data exchange. The original problem statement was very simple, which was here, integrators, all of our partners are having trouble integrating with Ayushman Bharat. So how do I integrate better with it? Can you make some APIs? Can you expand? Can you have some abstracted APIs or some cleanup of the APIs to make it easier? But the way Aman did that, it evolved into a whole SDK only. So ye SDK pe kaam hua, and then SDK is the package at the end of it. So when you say yaar do API banao, while that is the initial project, it may end up as an SDK if you do well. So can you think of those abstractions on the product lens, the product packaging also have a vision for right now, this looks like a tech project. What is the product vision or a platform vision that you would have? Another example is this was around subscription-based billing. So this was a lot of functional understanding that was required. It's not easy to do subscription-based billing integrations with this. You ask anyone who joins generally as a fresher with Amazon or any of this, first project is always payment integration. कोई तो एक रुपए का कार्ड इंटीग्रेशन करा दो, ये इंटीग्रेशन करा दो. That's always the first year as a fresher. When you do this in 3 months, right? When you're integrating with Razorpay for something like a Glyphic, you suddenly are exposed to a whole bunch of failure cases, corner cases, and all of that. So you get into functional domain expertise. So suddenly you're saying, abhi payments ka kuch bhi aata hai, Ashi would be able to do that very, very well. This is one from a ecosystem perspective. So this was a project with Beacon, jahan pe originally it was, let's just clean up the mobility interface API and let's get that better and so on. And what can be a sandbox compliant specification. But Shivans just dived in, figured out ki protocol compliant catalogs kaise bane, and generalized it to any mobility. So it doesn't need to be wo Namma Yatri ho ya char aur dusre ho. It doesn't matter. All of those, become one, and all mobility services can attach to this. And it actually created a sandbox that was ready to go. So in each of these, in this case also, right, accessing patient medical records and all, this was with Anshuman on Bahmini. So Bahmini on ThoughtWorks. Suddenly Nupur dived in and then created not just, it was initially just a portal, but thinking about that, it was built in a way that was using a microservice-based architecture, thinking of extra things like a mobile OTP bhi to lagega for retrieval of medical records. How does that work and so on. So just expand the scope yourself, but don't randomly, हवे में अभी से ही नहीं, पहले 2 हफ्ते में you have to prove your worth. Okay, so build that trust and then your projects expand into bigger things. This one as well, right? How do you do a translation plugin? So first thing they would say is, अरे हाँ छोटा सा translation करके दिखाओ. And then you will like, dude, उसमें क्या है? एक API call मारा हो गया translation. Now let's think bigger. So then you suddenly say, okay, can I turn this into a translation plugin? Then you need to understand how do editors work. What does it mean to create a plugin in a thing? So what was originally a translation AI little project suddenly turns into a plugin project. Suddenly says editors mein plugins kaise use ho. Suddenly figures out how do you get latency figured out with LLMs inside inside any kind of editor. And it's very generalizable, all open source. And now this Sunbird is what powers Diksha, which is accessed by 200 million kids, right? So that's kind of the impact when you start thinking beyond. Another one was, this is another very interesting one Suyash did, was around video content explorer. So the original thought was, how do I actually figure out parsing videos out of YouTube? But then he really, and there was no definition. This was a project where literally we also didn't know how to do it. But Gautam was an amazing mentor. And Suyash just researched and then figured out that YouTube ka voice to text करके transcribe कर सकते हैं. उस transcription को translate can be thrown to LLM to give us a summary, give us embeddings and a whole bunch of things out of that. And hence YouTube videos can suddenly become searchable. So now this is a powerful AI tool actually capturing large volumes of video content, playlists and so on, and can enable knowledge discovery out of those agents. So that becomes the, real project. Another one that, this one has actually 17 contributors. It's a community project. But there was a very different way. Chakshu, he is another amazing mentor. So he created this project where there was an open source administrative boundaries we have in India. District boundary hoti hai, taluka boundary hoti hai, and so on. The challenge was, how do you accurately get that? And all kinds of challenges with automating it. So OCR for little things, we haven't cracked it yet. If you can figure it out, nothing like it, right, on this project. But a simple thing that they did was saying, you know what? Here is a process, a bunch of scripts, some manual work, some tool to be used in this sequence. And can you do the boundaries for Bihar? Can you do the boundaries for Odisha? Can you do the boundaries for something else? ऐसे करके 17 people took up one state and did it. And within like 2 weeks, suddenly you had like so many submissions and all the India boundaries with district level boundaries and all are captured. And no government has this data. So now that being open source is a different way. Now, this is a very different kind of project, right? This is, you are getting more people involved in your project. Even that is a huge win. So if you are able to create a project, if you spawn off another project, so you are creating one project, but you have yet another project which you spawn off. You are the creator of it. You are suddenly the maintainer on it. That you say कि यार, you know what, यहाँ पे ये data नहीं आ रहा ना अपने पास, So let me create a side project and I'll try to get my mentor, I'll get another contributors from my college. In your college, you will have a lot of folks who may not have gotten selected, may not have gotten a chance. It is you guys who are the experts who are now going to graduate out of this program who will need to take them further, right? You need to mentor them in turn. So generally, whenever I've thought of mentoring, it's always a pay forward thing. If you mentor 5 people, you know, as the only thing you want in return is you say, "Yaar, aap apne juniors ki madad karo." That's how it works in colleges, right? So you need to do that for your juniors. And how do you get them involved? They didn't make it, doesn't mean they are not talented. They just did not direct the energies right, or maybe they have not yet ramped up as fast as you have. So then it's your responsibility to guide them. Wese, you can create projects like these that are contributor centric, that do not require the level of expertise of data structures, algorithms that probably you have, and that's why you got selected, not them. But you can break down the problem and give easier tasks to 5 other folks in your college and ask them to also contribute. That would be a huge win. That's huge, right? When it comes to understanding leadership, right? You yourself discover yourself as leaders, you discover yourself as mentors, and this is a journey towards that. And then the holy grail, right, in all of this is if you can become a maintainer of a project. So this is an example. WAP SQL was a project that we had started at Samagra for figuring out setting up integrating extensions with Postgres. So PG vector, timescale. We've been experimenting with different data structures or different types of data coming in. So GIS data, vector embeddings data, and so on, time series data, and so on. So there are a whole bunch of extensions that it was hard to integrate with Postgres easily. So we created this WAP SQL kind of thing that allows integrations, extensions to be made easy. Now, suddenly, this thing, if you see, it has adapters for all these, extensions for all of these have been created for that particular thing. So for Postgres version 14, for Postgres version 16, for PG vector ka extension is current and updated 0.51. Now, this is a good example where Piyush, as a C4GT contributor, was a contributor initially to the project. And now today he's a maintainer on that project. So that is a holy grail for you for next 1 year. I would say 3 mahina ye karo, but within the next year, you should be the maintainer of the projects that you're leading. I think that's very important in whatever you do. Again, the last thing I want to stress on is perseverance. So I remember this, back in 2007, maybe 2008. There was this very talented young lady who had joined us at Google as an intern. So I think IIT Kharagpur or something. She had come in as an intern, and as interns, we have very low expectations. Generally, any company has very low expectations from intern. So you have to fight that. You have to prove your talent. So this girl, what she did was, of course, she was very talented. We were doing radio ads, and she came up with an algorithm to say, hey, let's create this in a better way. Let's do this in a better way. And she had very innovative ideas. So one of those ideas we said, we all developed, and they said, okay, let's patent this. Even after her 3-month internship, she kept following up. वो project में integrate हुआ क्या? वो patent file हुआ क्या? Do you need a para or two around it? I can create a diagram and give you. Project integration के लिए क्या चाहिए? उसका I can give you more load tests if that is needed. What is the blocker? बताओ. And this was past her internship, right? She had no business to be asking that, but she kept persevering until her idea was patent was filed around it, and the project was actually merged and it went live, and we told her, hey, it's live. Of course, she joined Google after that, and 16 years later at Google, she is today director, managing a large part of Google's engineering. So these are the kind of examples, these are the kind of things that start off with internships. You never know the kind of impressions you're going to leave out, you never know the kind of boundaries you're able to push and the level that you yourself will get to. You wouldn't realize that you can create something that is going to become the next Linux, the next Kubernetes, the next big AI product out there. So you all have that ability to do that. So think, like we discussed yesterday in the system design thing, we all thought of this as a system, right? Think of this as a system, think minimalism, think abstractions, think generalization. And then I said, remember कि ecosystem को भी लाओ. Ecosystem कौन है? आपके contributor है, companies है. So get them to contribute in open source and have them create adapters for their own products to get on the bandwagon. So feel free to start empowering yourself. You're not a student ki, you have to ask someone permissions to do things. One thing learned at any big company, right? You go to a Google, Microsoft today, any of these companies, even at Samagra, we follow that. Kar do, baad mein sorry bolo. It's faster that way, as opposed to going through 20 meetings to getting permission, and then somebody has some problem, and then you try to drive consensus about 20 meetings. That was an eye opener once for me. An engineer was telling me, ki, yeah, in the amount of time I've spent in that meeting, right? We have had 3 meetings for this and for deciding whether to do it or not. We've spent 3 hours on it. I would have written and shipped the code in 1 hour. So that was a change in mindset, which is like, okay, next time we're not having a 1 hour discussion. We're just going to write the code and we just ship it. And उसके बाद देखा जाएगा. अगर गलत हुआ तो sorry बोल देंगे. But I tell you, nobody will ever scream at you for actually writing code and shipping it. तारीफ ही करेंगे. Okay, so take initiative. If you say, okay, I can spawn off another project. If you say, okay, I can get 5 more contributors, you really don't need permission. You can do it. And now when you have 5 more contributors, you have already proven your mettle in that project. You understand the project in and out. You are taking the responsibility of mentoring them. You are in sync with the mentor in terms of the vision that you need to get. तो तीनों है तो क्या डरना. तो don't ask for permissions, don't wait for it. रात को 2 बजे आइडिया आया, 6 बजे तक you'll be done with the code. Ship it. You check it in and you say mentor को, यार ये रात को आइडिया आया तो बना दिया. What do you think? And they would love you for that. Okay. So ये sorry, one way street हो गया. I've been giving a long bhashan. Happy to take any questions you have, in the overall journey. Acha, one more thing. Did I tell you about this or nahi? I was telling one of the community leaders is, do have your sights on a direct PhD after BTech. That is a new rule that UGC has started that allows you to do a direct PhD after BTech. You don't need to do an MTech. You don't need to give GATE. So the only requirement is you need to do the NET, the National Eligibility for Teachers wala test, which is fairly easy level if you have done 4 years of computer science, or you can ramp up on that. No branch level. If you are in civil and you say कि मेरे को PhD करना है computer science में, as long as you clear the net of computer science, you are eligible for a PhD in computer science. So वो जमाना गया कि civil किया है तो civil में masters करना है, civil में PhD करना है. No, not at all. So UGC last month only, this is a new rule. That's why I'm telling you. Please leverage those things. So if you have even the slightest of inclination towards doing research, towards doing a PhD में you really dive into a problem. Generally हवे में होता है, red chapati वाला app बनाओ, ये वाला app बनाओ, वो वाला app बनाओ. That's what a startup does. You don't get into the depth of things. So now is your time. You have time on your hand. You're single. You can actually spend that time. 3 साल और बस and करा दो PhD. You'll be out with a doctor at the end of 3 years, another 3 years from now or whenever you graduate. Okay, so for that, then also have an eye on if you're going down that research path, right? And बिल्कुल US मत जाओ यार, and parents से 50 लाख का लोन लेके तो बिल्कुल ही नहीं, right? Anyone having that horrid idea of taking a loan and going to the masters for US, I have 20 resumes waiting saying job dila do. Why? And these are resumes from people who have done masters in the US and wanting to come back. H1B clear नहीं हो रहा, कुछ job नहीं मिल रहा वहां पे. हाँ, so ऐसे नहीं है कि वहां पे कोई ज्यादा jobs है. I would say India has the opportunity today. India has the talent and very cutting edge companies. You'll get to do very interesting work. Now, given that, you either choose, of course, a job in India or you choose a direct PhD, which US में नहीं होगा. US में 5-6 साल कराने पड़ेंगे, masters plus PhD. If you are in India, you could directly 3 साल में PhD from a IISc, from a IIIT, from any of the IITs, all of these extremely reputed research centers. Any doubts in that, of course, ping later, but batana. Oh, wonderful, Palak, doing a PhD from IIM Bangalore, finance and working on fintech project after BTech PhD. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant, Palak. Yahi path chahiye. Just plan that out and you have time on your hands to do that. So definitely pursue that. Or कौन है? Anyone else? Any questions basically? Any questions please on either the, at a macro level from a career point of view, or where would you want to take a project point of view or so on? And if not, one takeaway that you're taking before I end, would love to see one thing that you're going to take away from this meeting. What is the most memorable thing कि यार याद रहेगा, करोगे कुछ? Then we'll end. Any questions or one takeaway? Just chat पे डाल देना. Just curious to hear what are you taking away from this. Okay, Sabya, project to product vision, good. Nice, Devarsh. Yeah, that's how it typically works now. Okay, thinking beyond your problem statement. Good, good, good. Question भी है तो दो हाँ तेरा question, any question, don't worry.
Sir, may I ask one question, sir?
Yeah, please. And I'm just Rahul here. No, sir.
ओके सो सर राहुल भाई सपोज करो कि मुझे डीएसए में मतलब बहुत ही कम आते हैं, लिंक लिस्ट ले लो या फिर मतलब बेसिक बेसिक सब आता है, लेकिन
हाँ
एंथुसियाज्म फुल है कुछ भी प्रोडक्ट डिप्लॉय करने का या फिर
हाँ हाँ
कोई भी मतलब मेंटरशिप को मतलब सर का माथा खाने का पूरा एंथुसियाज्म है
हाँ
कुछ भी करने
Good.
का, लेकिन
हाँ
डीएसए में उतना नहीं है, तो कैसे मेरा फ्यूचर
हाँ
आप देखोगे?
नहीं नहीं परफेक्टली फाइन यार सब जगह डीएसए नहीं लगता सब जगह डीएसए नहीं लगता सो व्हाट यू डू इज राइट देयर आर प्रोजेक्ट्स वेयर सब कुछ बना बनाया फंक्शनैलिटी इज ऑल डन वेल एफिशिएंसी पे प्रॉब्लम है हाँ एफिशिएंसी जब प्रॉब्लम होता है तब डीएसए आता है यार एफिशिएंसी पे प्रॉब्लम नहीं है तो नोबडी केयर्स अबाउट डीएसए पहले तो बोलते फंक्शनैलिटी हो रही है कि नहीं एंड इफ दैट्स अफोर्डेबल राइट नोबडी केयर्स अबाउट डीएसए or you just use the best in class for that. So for example, if you want to do role based access management, तो Keycloak है OAuth है वो कर लेते हैं. Now if you say कि नहीं और efficient चाहिए, like I've been one startup that I was advising, वहां पे they were acting with so much scale, they were managing entire Coca-Cola का learning management system and so on, so they had immense scale. So the regular Keycloak and other role management systems were not capable of handling the kind of latencies that they demanded. So then they got a whole bunch of gurus in database creation and all to recreate a database that was optimized for their use case. तब जाके वो DSA याद आता है. So unless you are going to join a Ubuntu Canonical जहाँ पे कोई तो एक फंडू सा backend project हो रहा है या फिर you're going to be part of a startup that requires that kind of scale and really wants to rewrite a Keycloak, तब तक कोई नहीं पूछता. And I tell you that is a minority. The majority, right? It's half and half. हाफ में तो पाला ही नहीं पड़ेगा. You just create the functionality well. वहां पे corner case सोचो, सब कुछ सोचो, and you're good. The other half, you will need some efficient thing. तभी what's important is to learn how to benchmark products. So how do you benchmark embeddings करना? तो how do you benchmark Pinecone चलेगा या कोई और DB चलेगा? What is the best DB for actually storing embeddings? So as long as you know how to do a Google search or maybe GPT prompts and find out कि क्या 4 products है market में, and you formulate a benchmarking technique in your mind. You need to know how do I say what is best. That is a skill to learn. Huh? DSA नहीं आता कोई फर्क नहीं because you're saying I can't solve for it. But knowing that something is good or bad, ये तो बनता है. You have to learn that. So benchmarking projects में घुस जाओ or even in your current project benchmarking कराओ. No matter what you're doing, benchmark latency, benchmark load testing, use bunch of libraries for that. That makes you like 90% powerful. नाउ यस जब वो बोलेंगे कि यार वो मेरा जो प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट था 1000 QPS हो रहा है 20,000 नहीं हो रहा yes that is where you will break without knowing DSA and C++ and all but that is a different breed. Embedded programmers थोड़ा अलग टाइप के रहते हैं minority में रहते हैं they're very hard to find but generally in the way we have done education in India ना वो embedded programmers C++ programmers mathematics जानने वाले programmers कम है. हाँ we BSc maths को हम कल समझते हैं right although BSc maths is like the holy grail today it would be better than BTech computer science but we don't look at it that way right so talented people don't go there but सीखो but if not that I would say is 10-20% of the population you can be wildly successful in the 80%. ठीक है ना hope that answers the question थोड़ा.
Yeah exactly.
Okay great.
Thank you.
तो यही था क्या शिवम अच्छा नहीं this is a different question ना would you say Shivam your question is would you say you implementing DSA in real life project really opened your eyes it worked on GMAP was graphs used in your time. Yeah, the biggest eye opener for me for DSA value was Orkut actually. We were working on Orkut where everything was in a social network graph. So we had to figure out things like who are bad actors in the system. So bad actors earlier, it was spam detection or, porn detection and so on images. or in text messages, or कोई किसी को bully कर रहा है, how do you find out the gist of a conversation and do that? All of this required a lot of, largely we found that it's not a text or content problem. It was a social engineering attack always, especially on a social network. तो किसी को फंसाना is the thing. Now, how do you know कि वो फंसा रहा है कि नहीं है based on content? We didn't have LLMs 10 years ago. So then what did we do? Everything was on a graph. So all of our good social network was on a graph. And graph internal a graph tha. So that is the, DSA gods had created something called Preggle internally at Google. I tell you, even today, Neo4j and all doesn't come even close to what Google had internally 10 years ago. And I think Facebook, Google, they've not really open sourced a lot of their graph stuff. That is the secret sauce, whether it is a knowledge graph for search or whether it is social network wala graphs. वहां पे पता लगा था कि oh my god, by using graphs in a different way, the queries that we would do on graphs would be very different. The propagation of elements on graph would be very different. So when you do a score, you're not giving a score for one row. You're saying कि graph में एक node को score लगा दो and then give a dampening score across the things after that. So next node, all the friends of this node get a score of 0.5. So if I say this person is bad, उसको score दे दो 1. And then उसके friends को 0.5 score दे दो और उसके friends को 0.2 score दे दो. If anyone adds up to 1, delete the account and throw them on a verification. So those were the automated algorithms that really saved the day. So understanding how graphs work was very critical. वैसे ही, of course, maps had their own challenges in terms of hierarchy and all. And even at Google, right, you see maps is sometimes limited in that sense. Hierarchy ठीक से नहीं होती. So your whole area ideally should contain a house or a building. Building के wings should be contained within that building का area. And flats need to be contained within a particular building. That's a DSA problem. How do you create a hierarchy of this that is aware कि ये flat number is building में है? आज तक Google Maps में वो problem solve नहीं हुआ है. मैंने भी try करा था, but Indian addressing is so messed up because we don't have very structured addressing. No? So based on address, we were not able to fix that. And once we had ideas to fix it, neither was the underlying data structure capable of handling it. So when the Uber team has been building maps, a lot of Google folks went to Uber, part of that team. When they built maps, it was grounds up in a very different way. I don't know, nobody has released open source stuff in maps since then. Sesame, apna ye hai, OpenStreetMaps hai, of course. But maps is another very interesting space, geospatial space. In fact, IIIT Hyderabad has started a dual degree program now this year for CS plus AI with geospatial technology as a new master's program. So अगर उसमें masters करना है, PhD करना है, तो definitely geospatial is a good area. ठीक है ना, Shivam, answered your question. How do you learn graphs again? Look at a bunch of graph. Neo4j is most well documented. So I would say start with Neo4j, but slowly, quickly get into Wikidata and others. So Wikidata and all actually have all Wikipedia data in a graph. So you actually have something to play with. Neo4j is a good starting point because it has a good editor, visualizer, सब कुछ दिखता है, अच्छा से होता है. So you can start with that. But very quickly get into using data in a graph, and Wikidata and all of that has a bunch of things already there. So play with some data. Look at also schema.org or datacommons.org. This is an open source thing, but initiated by Google to structure the world's data. Open source mein. Look at that one as well. Otherwise, ping me, I can point you to more things. दूसरा क्वेश्चन दिविज से, since we are talking of things beyond code design scale, some resources you'd suggest, read thinking stories, how to do, go to 0 to 100. हाँ, my favorite is highscalability.com. तो प्लीज सवेरे उठ के ना एक भगवान की पूजा करो या प्रेयर बोलो एंड देन रीड highscalability.com का एक आर्टिकल. Just make that part of your routine. Brush किया, high scalability का एक article पढ़ा. They're complex, huh? So if you want to do it once, one article for 2 days, that's okay too. But you'd have stories from Netflix, you'll have stories from LinkedIn, you'd have stories from just about every provider. It is the best blog set that I've seen, and genuinely real data देते, कोई fake नहीं रहा वहाँ पे, only engineers are writing it. So no sandbagging, it's as real. वो बोलते हैं, मतलब LinkedIn में ये था, Twitter में ये था, यहाँ पे फटा, we tried doing this, we wasted 1 year, फिर से फटा, फिर we did this. And so everyone very openly actually sharing, very well structured blog post. So 0 to 100 scale, please वो करना. RBACs and implementing them, Yash, हाँ यार complex है. It's very interesting if you can take a simple, right? First, understand all the complexities of RBACs. So try to use some products with RBACs. One thing that we have encountered at Samagra is we used to use Keycloak, and Keycloak में काफी कुछ होता है RBAC का भी. But in Odisha, when we were implementing for agri use case in a government setting, we wanted to put in some auth and Keycloak use किया. Their thing was, no, we want geography based role access. So role based access नहीं, geography and role aware access. तो इस डिस्ट्रिक्ट का, लेट्स से इट्स हरियाणा, तो हिसार डिस्ट्रिक्ट का जो सुपरिटेंडेंट है उसके आजू बाजू 50 किलोमीटर क्या जितना डेटा है उसने देखना चाहिए. So it is geographic distance radially given against a person's role and his location. So now suddenly Keycloak cannot do that. So if you remember 10 years or 15 years ago, actually, MongoDB क्यों famous हुआ? MongoDB was used by Foursquare. First time, the first real usage of MongoDB came from read it up. There are lots of blogs on it. So Foursquare was like a location-based app. So Foursquare में आप आता है कि you can go to a place and it's still a cool idea. You go to a place and you can, number of times you go to a place. If you go to a place very often, तो कोई स्टारबक्स है, सीसीडी है, अगर आप 10 बार जाते हो हफ्ते में, तो you become the mayor of it. So whoever has the highest number of visits to that place becomes the mayor. That's it. इतना ही value prop. But becoming a mayor was a cool thing. Then the business would give you freebies. Now they wanted something that allowed a database query to be done within a search radius, which said कि अरे 50 meter पे there is this other coffee shop that you are 1 point away from becoming mayor. Why don't you visit that? So suddenly they wanted to do real-time geo queries against a database, and MongoDB was the first one to support coordinate system. You can say, is coordinate से कितना दूर है? Mathematically, it's just root of x square plus y square, right? उतना ही है. Nothing fancy that they're doing in that algorithm. But doing that at scale, making that a native part of the database, MongoDB ने करा. So like that, in Keycloak, how do you extend Keycloak to be able to support this geo thing? We had built that. I think it will be lying there somewhere in GitHub. But I would say try to implement something like this. Or then you say, yeah, Keycloak is a big monster. You're going to do a hello world of a system that does RBACs only. एक RBAC की service बना लो, minimal इसकी, and load test करके दिखा दो. So you look up benchmarks of a Keycloak and you say, you know what, RBAC kit can handle 1,000 queries every second for a i7 GPU or CPU or something. And मैंने जो बनाया, that can handle 1 lakh queries on i7 CPU. If you can show any benchmark like that, that becomes your paper right there. That becomes a claim to fame. वो ही आपका one line resume आपको कहीं पे भी job मिल जाएगी. Okay, so Yash, try something like that. Then graphs का बताया ना, Neo4j वगैरह से शुरू कर रहा हूँ, Wikidata पे था ना. Anmol, final year, want to go out of India for job. No plan to study ahead. Little money at least for 3 years. यार फॉरेन का क्रेज छोड़ना, इंडिया में ज्यादा सैलरीज है ऑनेस्टली. सो आई रिमेंबर फॉर वन कंपनी वी वर बिल्डिंग अ टीम, वी वर हायर्ड टू build out the team in India, and we ended up building a team in Czech Republic, Prague, Ostrava में. Why? Because the engineers that we were getting in India, in Bangalore, were more expensive than what we got in Ostrava in Czech Republic. And they had like comparable or slightly better math skills, and we needed like good math for that project. तो यार ऐसे नहीं समझना कि इंडिया is high on the salary level. So किसके लिए जा रहे हो बाहर? You want an experience, you want salary. If it's experience, I would also encourage you to look global south. So look at Asia, a very thriving ecosystem in Vietnam, a very thriving ecosystem in Cambodia, and all of these places also. So experience लेना है और जगह पे जाओ. US, Europe is, they've kind of slowed down the tech kind of progress. You won't learn anything new. Definitely, I'm not saying you don't want that experience. I have benefited from my experience in the US. You understand how to build things, how to think systematically. US now, you would really understand how to think things, how to systematically package things better, how to present things better, how to enable mass market domino effect with whatever you're building. कोई US से सीखे, amazing है, right? It's always designed in the US, made in China, right? But that design is very important. You learn that from the US. If you go to Europe, you'll understand the importance of precision. प्रिसिशन किसको बोलते हैं? वो डेसिमल पॉइंट के में भी डेसिमल पॉइंट होता है इनविजिबल साउंड के लिए, एंड दे विल थिंक डाउन टू द लास्ट 10 डेसिमल. सो at I remember NIMA वगैरह there were challenges where they said नहीं for one project they said 2 प्रोसेसर चाहिए, you need to have 2 प्रोसेसर्स and 2 प्रोसेसर्स को compete करना है आपको, and you have to figure out कि 2 प्रोसेसर्स Apple का प्रोसेसर है and Intel का प्रोसेसर है, and which one of those if and 3 processors, right? One was I think Apple का था, एक PowerPC था, एक Intel का था. 3 processors required to do voting of who gets it right, and then only you would pass that info, pass a function. So you would evaluate a function and you do voting amongst 3 processors पे चलने वाला code to figure out what is the real answer. And I say seriously, processor पे भी भरोसा नहीं है. होता नहीं 1997 में इंटेल के ये प्रोसेसर में एक फ्लोटिंग पॉइंट बग था, द 17th डेसिमल वाज इनकरेक्ट. तो उससे फर्क पड़ा. तो this only a European can come up with. And so it's amazing to learn in Europe, right? You work with a Swedish company, a Scandinavian company, you will learn that kind of level of detail, leave nothing to chance. And when it comes to India, you're really seeing a growth story. Like, how do you scale at like population scale of 1 billion? Why would you go to Google, right? What I remember out of a Google experience is कि यार कुछ भी launch करा तो यार 100 million concurrent, 1 billion you concurrent. You have a pride of launching it at big projects, right? बट वही प्राइड इंडिया में भी बड़े प्रोजेक्ट्स लॉन्च करके मिलता है, राइट? यू आर डूइंग इट एट द सेम स्केल, मे बी बिगर, राइट? सो इंडिया आई वुड से फर्स्ट प्रेफरेंस. अगर और कुछ सीखना है, यू सी ग्लोबल साउथ ऑल्सो, वहां पे अपॉर्चुनिटीज कम है, कॉम्पिटिशन कम है. And then, of course, you have US, Europe for their own different perspectives and methods. Some people have also gone to Japan to learn things. Again, a very different cultural experience, understanding of way they work and all. But पहले थोड़ा इंडिया भी देख लो, because बहुत सीखोगे. It's just growing like this on a hockey stick, especially in AI and so on. ठीक है. Then अच्छा, insightful, हाँ, highscalability.com, right? हाँ, वही है, I think वही है. I hope they didn't change URL. I don't know .com क्यों है, .org होता, कुछ तो होता. Maybe it is a commercial site. ठीक है. Any other quick within the next 5 seconds and then we close. Absolutely delightful to see your thoughts and all. काफी वर्ल्ड है आप लोगों के thoughts. So very cool. Okay. Any question? Any ये? Abhishek, over to you. Abhimanyu, over to you. Abhishek, you have a question? Abhishek, you have a hand raised. ये नहीं, गलती से क्या?
हाँ, लेगेसी हाथ लग रहा है मुझे.
अच्छा, ठीक है, छोड़. Okay, so wonderful talking to you guys. Stay in touch and keep thinking bigger. थोड़ा बड़ा सोचो. हाँ, and you have all the opportunities at your disposal. We are all at your disposal to help you. That's why we are all here. So we always love questions and but थोड़ा homework करके आओ and बड़ा सोचो. Then everyone is interested, right? Mentor side. That's our excitement. All right. Over to you, Abhimanyu. Thank you.
Thanks, Rahul. Thank you so much. Any questions again, I'll just share with you that come over chat later on.
हाँ, बिल्कुल.
Perfect. ठीक है.
Sounds great.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Okay, guys. How about we take a 10-minute break now? So just a quick update on the agenda. Rahul's session was supposed to be the last session we sort of took today. We kind of moved it up because he had certain time commitments later, and also because Chakshu was supposed to take the coding best practices session today. He's fallen sick, so he won't be able to take it today. So we're planning on closing the boot camp slightly early. I think you should be done by 7 p.m. 7:15 latest. So we'll have the coding best practices sometime later, because whenever Chakshu is feeling better, and he said he'll have time sometime later and he can take that. For now, the idea of what's coming next is जो आपको वीडियो भेजा था ना on GitHub on Git best practices. Hope everyone's watched that. Vedant from our team, Vedant's the senior developer advocate. He's building communities for open source for a long time, and that's what he's come here to C4GT to do as well. He'll sort of guide you through a session on a recap of that video that was sent and a live demonstration of it. So that's the next session, and then we can just have takeaways, feedback, and close for the day. So everyone take a quick 10-minute break. Let's meet back at 6:35. Does that sound good? Perfect. Everyone raise your hand if you're back. I don't like being a teacher, but cool. We have a decent amount of people. Let's just wait for another minute and then we can maybe start. Wow, that's a lot of people that are back. Everyone seems really energized after Rahul's session. Chalo, till everyone else is also back for a minute or so. Any takeaways that you haven't shared with Rahul, or any pending questions from Rahul's session? I think he left everyone a little bit inspired, कुछ करना है तो बता दो यार. Want to get a general sense of the room. मतलब it's not forced, like don't make up a takeaway अगर नहीं है, पर अगर कुछ है तो just unmute and say. या फिर सारे
Hi.
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Actually, tomorrow, Rahul has said that like the microservice architecture of the scalable backends, because he probably said that in a highly scalable backends, we need to break down the each of the service into a modular component that we also known as microservices. But in a few of the not few, but in a lot of the startups, recently open source startups, I've seen they use the monolith architecture. So what's the difference between them? Though they are also scalable, but I don't get the point. Like I'm not able to understand why these startups prefer a monolith instead of microservices.
Okay, so the question is why startups prefer a monolith instead of microservice architecture, right? That's the question. Okay, I'm not the
Exactly.
right person to answer this. I will ask that question to Rahul, and he can maybe take it up later on. I'll send the answer on the group so everyone can see it. Cool.
Yeah.
If there's nothing else, then Vedant, you can take it away.
Yeah, sure thing. First of all, sorry guys, like the lighting is not good because there's no electricity here in Koramangala, Bangalore. But yeah, we'll start with the session. Meanwhile, people who have raised their hands can unraise it. And yeah, please do raise it when required. Rather, for the starters, let me tell you that this should be a totally interactive session. Okay, we don't want this to happen like me giving all the gyan, all the passion to you. Maybe you have a lot, you may have had a lot it in the past, maybe colleges and all. So don't want to bore you. So yep, I'll share my screen and then we can go ahead with it. Just a sec. Yep. One second. I'll share the screen.
Till then, Kushagra has messaged me on private chat in Zoom saying need a daily Rahul session, lol. इतना time नहीं है उनके पास यार. But yeah, no, you will be interacting with Rahul on a frequent basis. Like we'll try having him come in and sort of give a few sessions here and there. ठीक है, take it away, Vedant.
Yeah, is the screen visible, guys?
बिल्कुल दिख रहा है.
Yeah. So very first, what do you say to learning Git? Not today, is it? Definitely not yet, because see, DMP is a program which is totally around open source. It is very important for you to use Git. So we'll definitely have to use Git no matter what and learn more about it. But why? How many of you would prefer doing your control C instead of a Git? Anyone? No one, right? I mean, that would be a dumb thing to do. Or what you can do is, if you want to be more collaborative, that is one of the motivations behind using Git, right? What you can do is you can share all the local copy. Has anyone done that before in the past? Although everyone does that at least a single time. Yeah.
I've did it.
Yeah, totally. So that is when we realized that Git is one of the solutions that we really need. Whereas we had other options as well, using AirDrop, maybe Google Drive, private Discord is one of the things, but we chose GitHub. Now, I want this to be a totally interactive session. That means I'll be the one asking a question and you'll give the answers. But this will be funny questions as well at the same time. But yeah, for the starters, again, why do you use GitHub? I just saw a couple of reasons that came out till now. Please put it in the chat or feel free to speak up.
Sorry, what you have asked?
Why do we use Git?
We use Git for the version control system as a version control system to maintain the version of our code base.
Right. Okay. Definitely the correct answer. What else? Like, there are multiple use cases. Would anyone like to share other use cases? Good work, Rajit.
I think Palak has explained it pretty well in the chat as well.
Okay, let me see if I can access the chat. Yeah, for collaborations, yeah, totally right, Palak and Ayushi, to keep track of change, to not overlap the changes. Agreed. So basically, it all comes from a problem when you are, working onto a project and you realize that, hey, this is something that I want to store, but I still want to try something out. And later on, I may not have the chance to go back to it. Now that is the use case where we use Git, where we just commit it so that all the changes are stored at a point where you can come back. So later on, what we mean by collaborative is, say for example, if you are working with your friend, right, and you want both of you to work onto the same code base. Now obviously that person cannot be making changes onto your laptop, right? That person will be working on his or her laptop. Now in that situation, we need a central place for things to happen, right? So that is when we use Git as well as GitHub or GitLab are some of the alternatives that we use, where we use Git system as a VCS, and to store the code we use GitHub, right? So both of you can be making the changes onto that platform. But yeah, still why? Because we need to be the best, and because we work on the best projects, we want to make the best out of it. That's why we use Git. Now, at the same time, Git can as well be used from a GUI, that is the graphical user interface, but we prefer the command line. Why? Because is it because of we look really cool while doing it? I mean, we may have different reasons. Some may think this. For some, like for me, it is because I find it really easy to type instead of hovering the cursor over on the complete UI. So yeah, now what we'll be doing is we'll be having small interaction where I'll be asking certain questions around the different topics that we have around it. Okay. Some of these questions will be pretty simple. Some of these will be relatively complex, right? I don't think that, the complexity will be increasing. It will be a mix. So it's not like if you are a beginner to this, right, that you should, drop off or something. Yes, Gaurav, I totally agree. Maintaining logs, rather maintaining tags is also one of the things to check these things. Not just that, if you want to if you want to do certain automation over the repository itself, right? For example, you have to say maybe enable auto deployment onto your repository. Maybe you will have to use GitHub Actions in that situation. So there are several things, several tools and tech that surround this domain. That is something that you can use. Now, we'll be starting with the questions. Yep. I'll just close the slides. Yeah. So how many of you have used Git before? Or is this your first time using it? Please share in the chat. I mean, obviously, let the people have replied some really good answers, so they would have already used it. But whoever has used it before, please drop a message. Maybe drop a yes or raise a hand. Okay. Apparently, okay, that's a good number. Awesome. So that also means that many of you already know how to use Git. So what we'll be doing is, Acha, how many of you have attended that Git 101 session that happens in your college? I think everyone must have done it, right? Git 101, Git and GitHub, definitely a thing. So what we'll be trying this time is we'll be having certain questions and we'll go ahead with it. And you will have to, no one has to raise hand or something. Just turn on your mic and go ahead. Okay. Consider this as more of a rapid response thing, rapid answer and all. Okay. So we'll start with easy ones though. I don't want to scare you off right from the beginning. So what is the difference between a working directory, a staging area, and head in Git? Anyone? Guys, you will have to respond very fast. We have a lot many questions to cover. Okay.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead. Just directly speak.
Means working directory means currently I am working. I have not committed the changes. Whereas when I searching for head means I am looking for what was my previous commits and all. So
Yep.
yeah.
And staging area?
Pardon me?
Staging area?
Staging area means I have not committed the changes yet, but it's I have made the changes. So I can use git diff for the to check that my current changes are what changes I have done. So that means it's area in the middle. Means I have not pushed the changes yet, but it's
Yeah,
in
right.
the middle.
Right. Absolutely. So basically, just adding on top of Devar's answer. So consider this as a three-step process. First step is, or the first place is the workplace, that is the working directory, where you are doing all the coding stuff. Then at the same time, you have to you have to select or filter out certain things that you want to push ahead onto the central directory, right? That is the staging area, as the name suggests, the stage, right? And when you push it, it goes onto the GitHub or whatever platform you have chosen already. Okay. And as the name suggests again, head is nothing but the place where you have your latest commit. It is basically a pointer that points to the latest commit in your current branch. Okay. Just more to know thing that you can use git status to see the status of these areas. Okay. Now, in order to add to the staging area, what is the function that we use? Sorry, what is the command that we use? Anyone
Git
speak up very
add.
fast.
We use git add dot.
Yes, right, git add. Yep. And more to know over here would be that we add the capital A parameter to stage all modified and deleted files in the working directory. Okay. So that we don't have to explicitly add the name of each and every file. Okay. Now, while adding and pushing, we have to enter a commit message. Why do we do that?
To remember like why we are making the changes, what exactly the update is.
Absolutely right. So basically, and at the same time, this commit message has to be very intuitive. The reason being, see, Git is a collaboration tool, right? The commit message that you have put should be understandable by the other person who is working on it, right? If you just write, say, I had palak paneer today, that is not relevant to, right? You can say that, hey, I updated the CI/CD pipeline today, right? That is something relevant that you have to add. For example, if you made certain commit as well, but now you think that you want to undo it, what is the command that we use?
We use git reset.
Okay. Yeah, we can use git revert as well. What it does is that it creates a new commit that effectively reverses the changes introduced in the previous commit. Additional information here or an alternative solution would be that you can use git checkout head tilt1. That what it will do is it will detach the head to the commit before the last one. But yeah, it is not a ideal way to do it. Yeah. So you need to be pretty much cautious around this. Yeah, so moving to the next question. Now, why do we add a git ignore file?
There are a few things we don't want to push in our code base. For example, node modules, so that we use
Yeah,
git ignore so that it remains in the local code base.
right. At the same time, yeah, that is a totally correct answer because pushing so many node modules is something that only an intern would do. So that is something you should definitely avoid. So at the same time, additional knowledge here would be you can use some special characters to create some specific patterns to ignore certain files. Like asterisk is something that can be used like anything that starts with this or anything, any character starting from here, followed by say .py. Then it will ignore all the .py files. Okay. Okay, then we'll move ahead. What is the purpose of using branches in Git? Anyone?
So that the main branch do not get affected. Means I can create a branch and I can make some changes. And if I just fumble something, then I can just delete my branch and create a new branch from the newest thing.
Yeah,
So I'm
right.
not affecting the main branch.
Right. So it's like, yeah, let's consider this from a scenario. Okay. You are building some nice product. There's a production line happening, a branch. Okay. And you directly make changes in the production. Turned out that there are certain problems in it. Right. So the prod gets affected. I know. So this is something that we definitely don't want to do. As a solution to this, what we create is exactly parallel. Yeah, it is for parallel development. It is just a separate copy of it, except that you can try out something new over here, some new feature. And if you think that, nee, yeah, this is not something that I want to go ahead with, or maybe I just want to pause it, and you don't want to affect the previous one, so you can keep the primary branch, the main branch, as the one or whatever name you put it to happen to use up ahead. Yeah. Now, what is the difference between merging and rebasing?
So when I am merging, I can visualize, means I can see the whole changes. So what I had made means. Are you getting my point? Means I am rebasing, then I can see the straight line. I can visualize a
Yeah.
straight line one. So the
Uh-huh.
each and every aspects will be removed when I am doing rebasing. While merging, I can
Right.
see all the parameters, means all the aspects I
Every
can see.
commit and all the stuff that has been happening over there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So to put it in simpler words, I don't think the wording is simple though. Merging basically integrates the changes from one branch into another. But at the same time, it creates a new commit at the merge point. And this is what differentiates that from rebasing. Rebasing basically rewrites history by taking all your commits and applying them on top of another branch, on top of another branch history. At the same time, merging is a very simple operation, but the history that is being generated is a bit complex. As Devar mentioned, right, tree basing creates a small straight line. It's basically that it creates a cleaner history. Okay, but yeah, at the same time, it is better to use merging than rebasing because rebasing can create some problems again. So it's normally that not much preferred. Now, when we say merging is there, then that means it will automatically bring merge conflicts. And if you come across any such merge conflict, how will you handle it?
Uh, Basically in Git, it opens up interactive editor sort of thing, and we
Hmm.
can keep the changes that we want, and we can remove the changes that we want that are getting conflicted with each other. And after that, finally, we can whatever the changes we have selected, we can
Hmm.
go with that. We can commit those changes.
Yeah. Right. To those who don't have a bit of context, let me explain a bit uh, T0 as well for this. So, what is a merge conflict? Basically, if two people are trying to update the same file, some file is there where some recent edit has been done, and you are trying to make a change over there, right? In that situation, the Git is not an AI tool to understand what is it that it needs to take. Should it be taking the one that is already there or the new one? In such a situation, it shows you by drawing lines that this is the part that was already there. This is the part that you are trying to put in. I'm unsure what to do. You have to just remove those lines and keep only the part that you want to keep and just commit the changes. Okay, this is the manual process that you need to edit the file in order to resolve them. then stage it, commit the resolved version. And yeah, the best part is the highlighting really makes it easy for you to understand where the conflict has been. So for you to fix it. Now, all this collaboration has been happening, but why do we use GitHub or GitLab as a platform for this? Because I'm pretty sure everyone would have, authenticated their GitHub onto the platform or mentioned it somewhere, maybe in the application, right? It's a very simple answer. Why do we use GitHub? That was actually answered before as well. So go ahead.
Probably to host our code base to the cloud so that anyone we want can access.
Yeah, absolutely correct. At the same time, everyone can track all the changes as well. So whatever code you have may not be in the other person's system's computer, right? You don't want to send the zip file over WhatsApp or put it on a drive and maintain it over there. That's why it acts as a central place which can be accessible through your Git command line in order to make changes over there and to keep all the tracks. At the same time, GitHub comes with several other features as well regarding product management and all. For example, if you may have heard about Kanban boards, I guess it maybe was covered somewhere before in yesterday's session. So Kanban boards are basically a task tracking system, similar to the Jira that you might have heard. In case at least in Jira, it's again a task tracking tool that is normally used at several organizations. Okay, so yep, that's it on this. Now we'll move on to the next question. Now, pushing the changes is one thing, right? But pushing the changes onto a remote repository on GitHub, what is the different thing that you have to do?
Sir, can you please repeat the question?
Yeah, what's the workflow for pushing your local changes to a remote repository, like the repository on GitHub, etc.? What is the command that is like, the primary command that you use?
Git push.
There's something else as well, I guess. I mean, Git push works, but before that, many of the times you need to do one more thing. Maybe in
Yeah,
case you have not linked the local to over
We
there.
have to add the origin, and
Right,
then we
right.
use git push origin and the branch name.
Right, absolutely. So you need to see, what. See, there would be multiple branches over there as well. There are multiple branches over here as well. You can push changes from one branch to another, but that is not by default set. You need to define what branch I should be by default put in it. So that is why we use git push origin and the branch name to push the changes from your local branch to the remote repository. Many of the times you may need some SSH keys or access token for doing this, but mostly it is not required. By default, you would have already configured GitHub on your VS Code or the editor that you use. That makes it really simple to implement things. Right? Now, obviously, you don't want to push changes directly into the repository over there. Right? Many of the times it needs to be reviewed by someone. What is the terminology for the review that we carry out? Or what you need to do in order for the review to happen?
raise a PR.
Yes, you need to raise a PR. It is basically a way to propose changes to the branch from your code base that allows you to review. Now the interesting part comes is the next question around this. Or basically the next thing that I'll be sharing, like a more to know fact, that onto a PR, there are several automations that can be done. For example, if you're creating certain web application and you want to, you have made a lot many changes. Now, how will the maintainer know that these changes are proper? I mean, that person may be a tech lead or whatever person, but it may not be easy for everyone to verify that the things are working fine, right? In such situation, there are ways for you to put certain GitHub workflows onto this. It is the same GitHub actions that I had mentioned earlier, that it can automatically check whether the build is successful or not. And it automatically notifies you there as well that the build is successful. Such workflows can be created by adding it in the .github/workflows folder, where you can just create a ci.yml file. So YAML files are just yet another markup language. Yes, you heard me correctly. The name stands for yet another markup language. Okay. So yeah, that is something that you can take this as a homework, an interesting thing to learn today as well. Maybe you can try this thing on how can you ensure that whatever changes you are pushing through a PR are leads to a successful build or not. Okay. Now we'll go ahead with some more interesting changes as well. Yeah, any command to undo the changes that have been staged but not yet committed. Like revert we use to undo the commit, but how by what command will you undo the staging?
Reset.
Yes, that is the answer for the this question. So git reset head and tilt one allows you to reset to the previous staging operation. Like it allows you to undo the staging operation basically. Another command that can be used, git reset will uh, unstage all the files. If you have to unstage only a single file, how will you do it? So rebase is related to the merging and all that situation. I'll give you a hint. A part of the code is similar to a Linux command that we use, a cmd command, basically. Part of this command is that. Yeah. Yeah, rm, right. So git rm, normally we use hyphen cached as well, and the file name. It will unstage that one particular file. Now, say for example, you want to so you have a local setup of a certain remote repository at your system. There are certain changes that have been added over onto that remote repository. Now you want to download those latest changes to your local. What is the command that you will use, and what is the optimal command in this situation?
Git clone.
No, okay. So git clone is the command. Say for example, you here what I mentioned was, say for example, if you have the local as well, and there's a remote connected as well, right? So git clone is nothing but it creates a local copy as it is. Earlier there was nothing onto your local, it created a local copy. That is when we use git clone. Okay. Yes, yes, git fetch or git pull, both of them can be used. It is normally better to use git fetch because it also downloads the latest changes from the report repository to your local. But at the same time, it does not affect your local working directory. Git pull will directly ask you, like, bro, there are some changes done here. I'll directly come and overwrite it. And we don't want your changes to, to vanish, right? So, yep. So meanwhile, let's go for a funny question. Have you any time in the past heard any funny commit message anywhere? Any funny message, any funny commit message, or maybe if you can think of any funny commit message now. Funny, yeah, yeah. Finally, worked lol. Yes, that can be one. Anyone else? Okay. Yeah, yeah. Now, many of the times, this is a very common issue that you might encounter. Say, for example, if you're working onto your local or something, the error message says fatal, not a Git repository or any of its parent repositories. What does this error message mean?
I get this message sometimes because of the network, and when the network is correct, good enough, I'm able to resolve it.
Okay. No, actually, the error is because that you have been trying Git commands in a normal folder. There is nothing around Git setup over there, right? Like the folder is basically not a Git repository, or the Git hasn't been initialized in the current directory. Okay. So a solution to this would be git init. So when you put the command, it locally creates a git instance there, a git repository instance, right? Basically, in order to connect local and the remote, you don't need the code. you need to have the tracking mechanism instance present there. And this is something that links both of them. Okay. Now, for example, how can you recover from an accidentally deleted commit? Okay. So basically, it's a two-step process. You can use git reflog, REFLOG. It's like reference logs to review the commit history and identify the corresponding hash of the deleted commit. And then you can just git checkout for that particular hash to detach the head to that particular commit. Okay. But at the same time, be careful or cautious around this because this would rewrite the history as well. Okay. Yep. Now somewhere in the git reset will no, I mean you'll have to you need the particular commit hash as well, right? Okay. So somewhere in the process in this previous question, someone mentioned stashing or git stash. Why do you use git stash?
May I answer?
So,
Okay, no.
Yes.
Okay, someone was speaking. Please go ahead.
you can go, Devarsh.
Okay, no issue. So if I want to change my branch, then and I am already working on something, and I want to suddenly change my branch. Then I can get stressed that work and then change my branch and then come back to my branch I was working.
Yeah.
And I can continue what I was working.
Right. Yep. Correct.
Yes.
So basically, you are working on to something you want to, as you mentioned, you have to change the branch. Right? Changing the branch will set if it will destroy or it will it will destroy the changes that you have made. So basically what you can do with stashing is you can create a stash. Stash is nothing but you can temporarily save your local changes without making a commit. And whenever you are back, you can unstash them. You can restore them later on. Okay, this is primarily used like when you are working on to multiple tasks. You don't want to create a branch, you don't want to create commits, but you want to keep your working directory clean and continue working on it. That is when you use stash. Okay, this is a very interesting thing to use and you should use it very often while you are working. Okay. Okay. Now in between we got to know about git ignore as well. Is there any way to ignore specific changes made to certain file without adding it in the git ignore? Maybe we have to ignore certain file. Is there any way apart from git ignore? And मतलब there should be some way, like people before git ignore. सब डाल दो ऐसा तो नहीं होगा. There was some solution. Okay. So basically there's a boring command git update hyphen index. Yeah, there's a command for it. Yes, even I don't use it anything as such. I as well never felt the need, but yeah, thought of telling. Well, it's an interesting thing to know. A git update hyphen index hyphen assume hyphen unchanged and the file name. Whenever you put this file, the git automatically knows without the git ignore file that I have to start ignoring this file. Okay. Okay. Now this covers the basic of git. Okay. Abhimanyu, meanwhile, let me know whenever I have to stop, right? Because I have a long list of questions. I can take it all night.
No
Yeah.
issue. You
ठीक है?
have
Yeah.
you can maybe take a couple more if you really want to. But there's also a question in the chat from Shivam. I don't know if you addressed that. Ki what is the best way to handle merge conflicts and avoid it beforehand? Some additional tips other than branching.
यार whenever you देखो merge conflicts will happen वैसे तो, but ideally whenever you are working on something, right? Or whenever you start working on something, it is better to do a git fetch beforehand. है ना? Otherwise क्या होगा? तुम change करते बैठोगे on to span of certain days. तब तक there would several things would have been happened there. And whenever you push it, it will like merge conflicts are bound to happen. So it is better to keep things as much updated every time you work on. So that is the magic of fetch. It's the magical one thing of Git. Yep. Yeah, I just cover a few more questions. Why do we, so yeah, in this, at the beginning, I covered some terminologies like prod, feature branch, bug fix branch, pre-prod, sandbox. These are the terminologies predominantly used while working on to big scale projects. And this very much aligns with why do we use branch. But why do we create this separate feature branch, bug fix branch, pre-prod, prod? This is very much connects with your concept of software engineering lifecycle or software development lifecycle, the SDLC, that you might have studied about while studying computer science, if not already. यार simple reason है. Feature बनाना will create a feature branch, bug fix आने में will create a bug fix branch. And so consider it like um, huh. So certain pipelines are created, sandbox, that or the dev, the pre-prod and the prod. ठीक है? Whenever you are working on to certain projects where there are several stakeholders involved here, ये तो तुम्हारी team रहती है. There's a client as well, right? So there are certain steps where everyone has to do testing. तो QA भी हो जाता है, right? So तुमने डेवलपमेंट एक में बनाया, वो आगे गया onto QA branch पे. That means अभी QA आके उस सैंडबॉक्स में they will do the testing. ठीक है? अभी ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि तुम यहाँ पे चेंजेस कर रहे हो, टेस्टर को वहां टेस्टिंग करनी थी और तुमने चेंज कर दिया, उसे जो टेस्टिंग करना था कर ही नहीं पाया. That's why we have to create separate branches / environments for this. ठीक है? ये हो गया. Then we as well maintain pre-prod as well sometimes. So that pre-prod पे we can test onto some of the large amount of test cases, more inclined towards the live cases ऐसा. And pre-prod पे जब satisfy हो जाता है, then we move to prod. This may not be directly related with the Git as well, but this is very much analogous to the concept around Git. I guess. What else? Let me check if I have any other interesting question.
Chat में Shivam has asked another question. अभी Git hooks के बारे में.
Should we use Git hooks for lintings? मतलब देखो, I mean everything is made for a reason, right? So I mean obviously it is helpful. It ensures code quality early. It helps you in automating the process. Errors भी easily मिल जाते हैं, है ना? But I guess it depends on the several other factors, है ना? Project size, team experience, where you have to as well ensure that अगर बहुत ज़्यादा collaborative होगा, then you don't want bad things to happen, right? You don't want to act like the intern who broke the production, right? So basically that is why. But yeah, personally I don't use it as such. We have some daily happening things, some tools already in place which we normally use. Not much. And normally there are so many AI editors, right? They as well help a lot in several things. So yeah. But yeah, it is again important to maintain the styling, the code style as well. As long as you are ensuring you are able to do this without Git hook and all, maybe you should go ahead with it. Yep. Yeah, Bhimani, I don't want to bore you more.
ठीक है.
But then, yeah, let's have one more interesting question.
Perfect.
Or let me give you a homework instead, okay? Yeah, Git is something that is used to keep a track of things, right? We cannot change time, we cannot go in the past, but there is a way to rewrite the Git history as well. Try to go home and study around and just this is a homework on how can you do this. Okay. Yep, that's it.
Cool. Thanks, Vedant. Thanks for that session. ended up being a pretty big recap of Git. I'm sure everyone found this helpful. Everyone's Git knowledge will also probably be at different levels out here. So just make sure, one very, very important thing, guys, make sure you know Git well. Matlab, you will need it for any collaborative effort going forward. So then let's call it quits for today's session, guys. In fact, for the entire bootcamp now, we're done with the 2 days of bootcamp. So I would just request one thing, that any sort of sessions anyone wants, anything that anyone wants us to sort of upskill you on, message on the group. We'll try to organize sessions for that. We have enough brilliant minds in the ecosystem for that. So just sort of leave a message on the group and we'll take it up. And last 5 minutes, let's just take quick takeaways from today and the entire bootcamp. Yeah, Kushagra, you have said, shall we have one on deployment and hoisting? Just message this on the group, right? We'll keep a running sort of theme on the group for people dropping in messages, and we'll reach out to people from within the ecosystem. Are we going to create project on our profile or an organization one? You'll be creating it in the organization's repository. Cool. Any sort of larger questions, larger takeaways from the bootcamp? Maybe you can drop in your favorite session in the chat. Come on, guys. One or two favorite sessions. I'm sure you all had some. Yeah, Rahul sir's session were my fave. Rahul sir OP. Yeah, Rahul is a very, very good orator, and he also knows his stuff just very well. Rahul sir and Git one. Yeah, Git is one was very important also. I would also say don't forget the roles and responsibilities of a contributor. That I'm not saying it should be everyone's favorite session because I took it, nothing like that. I'm saying that don't forget that as well, because that's also something that'll carry you throughout the entire 3 months. Yeah, so I'm seeing a general theme of everyone just really loving Rahul's sort of sessions. I'll make sure to let him know, and definitely feel free to connect with him. Send Either you can send me the questions or you can sort of hit him up on LinkedIn and leave your questions out there. But thanks so much, guys. Thanks so much for taking out time over these 2 days, and we're really looking forward to impactful contributions from your side over the next 3 months. You're by far some of the brightest young talent we have in the country. So we're really, really looking forward to the next 3 months from you. Karthikeya, yeah, you can drop some PRs now. There's nothing stopping you from doing anything. मतलब, as Rahul said, काम करना है कर लो, सॉरी बाद में बोल दो, तो ड्रॉप कर लो, worry about it later. ठीक है. Anyway, goodbye guys. Thanks so much.